Buddha Gem, and I've been thinking a lot about property. And, you know, it's one of those things that really, once you start to examine it, I think it really unravels capitalism to a large degree. And that's what I've kind of been aiming at with past videos, you know, talking about the absurdity of having like an oversupply of housing and yet millions of people without homes. You know, that kind of almost Orwellian doublespeak, you know, that shouldn't make sense to anybody, and yet unfortunately it does make sense. But it's all kind of tied up in this property, you know, this notion of property. And you know, the problem, of course, is whenever I talk about property, we start thinking about our stuff. You think about your stuff, and I think about my stuff, and you know, and immediately we're thinking, hey, this guy's trying to take my stuff, and it's not it at all. And then, of course, I say, no, I mean the means of production. You know, and everybody's eyes glaze over. Means of production. I mean, it's not a very usable term, right? You know, like, hey, I'm gonna go get the means of production, right? I mean, it's not just so. There's a real trouble or a real problem in trying to convey this to somebody, I think. So that's what I think about a lot, at least. You know, how to convey these ideas to you. You know, make possession and property and all this stuff kind of makes sense. So I'm a big fan of etymology. You know, getting back to the root of words, looking at the history of the word, how it developed, where its roots come from. I think we learn a lot about things like that, and I certainly do. And so it's one of the methods I use to get into the heart of things, like the term anarchy, for instance. So I went and looked up a few words just to get maybe a little deeper understanding of them. Take the word property, for instance. It originated around 1300s. Okay. But it originally meant, and we're still familiar with this usage, nature, quality, you know, like that is a property of water, or that is the property of such and such. You know, that's how we still have that usage. Later it says it was meant as a term of possession. It claims in this dictionary that sense as a possession was rare before the 17th century. So property is a relatively new term, at least used in the term of possessing something. And you know, it has all the where it comes from and stuff. Another interesting word I looked up, proprietary, kind of came up with property, but it goes back to about 1450, it claims, and it has an interesting definition, I guess. Possessing worldly goods in excess of a cleric's needs, from the Middle Latin proprietarius, owner of property. So that's very interesting. Its original usage, proprietary, is actually owning more than you need. And then the last one I wanted to look up was manage or management, and I'll explain why in a minute. This goes back to 1561, and it explains that the origination for this word originally meant to control a horse, from the Latin manus, or hand. We all know manual, you know, like a manual to some computer thing or whatever. But it goes back to handling of horses. So there's a very real sense that the root of this word is control, right? Manage, ownership, property. So my job, at least is the way I see it, is to find new and different ways to convey these ideas to you. Maybe not using fancy jargon, you know, but just using real life stuff. And so I was in a restaurant and I had to speak to the manager, you know, and the little light bulb went off. Manager, wow. You know, and I thought back, oh, maybe this rings true for you. But a lot of the places that I've lived in, they were controlled by management. That is, I never knew the landlord. I never knew the actual people or person who owned the property. I dealt with management, you know. This is very common in a restaurant, or anytime you deal with a business. Of course, we would like to speak to the owner, right? You have some problem with the business, but 9 times out of 10, that's like impossible, right? The owner, you're not going to get them, especially if you're talking to some big corporation. You're just trying to talk to the management as high up the ladder as you can go, right? But that's an interesting phenomenon if you think about it. Management, wow. Think about all this. So get back to the real world stuff. Think about all your stuff, because just being on YouTube, you've got to have some stuff, right? I mean, you're not living in a cardboard box broadcasting on YouTube, probably. Okay, it takes a certain degree of material wealth in order to have the doodads and the gizmos to do YouTube, to participate on YouTube. So you've got to have quite a bit of stuff. Maybe not as much as other people, but a lot more than most people on the planet. You've got more stuff than most people on the planet. Wow. Probably didn't think about it like that, right? Yeah, but you do. You have more stuff than most people on the planet. So, and as much stuff as you have, I'm willing to bet that you don't need anybody else to manage it for you. You manage all your stuff. That is, you control all your stuff. Because isn't ownership really about control? It's about having direct control or possession over something, active use. So despite all the stuff you have, you're able to use it on a regular basis, aren't you? Now consider the fact that we live in a society in which there are people that have so much stuff, so many things, so many businesses and homes and pieces of real estate, that they can't physically manage them. Think about that. What does that mean? Because if you are not directing control over something directly, how in any real sense do you own that? You don't. Management undermines the whole notion, because that manager is controlling that piece of property, right? You go into the restaurant, you wish to speak to the manager. Why? Because that manager has some kind of control, some kind of power over that business, right? He is in effect the owner of that business, at least for that period of time. Now what we have really is a trick of the legal system, in which a person who is in no sense managing or owning a piece of property is directly benefiting from it. In the real world, you would call that a parasite, because in no real sense can you justify the fact that you have to have someone else manage your stuff. Because once someone else is managing it, it's no longer yours. You're no longer in possession of it. The only reason you continue to benefit from this is because of a legal justifications that are made up by people who claim to own stuff. They claim to own stuff they will never use or never possess. So, in a way, this is to Brain Police and Punk Outlaw, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this, because one, would you support a system that gives rise to the need for management? That is, for an individual to hoard so much stuff, however you want to put it. I mean, I usually speak about it as the means of production, but however you want to put it, so much stuff that he has to have someone else manage it for him. Does that seem just to you? And if it does, doesn't it seem to necessarily contradict the idea of ownership? The fact that someone else is, in effect, owning what you own? Because that's really what management is. Managing something is, in effect, owning it. It's controlling over it. So, love to hear back from you guys, and hopefully this stirred the pot a little bit. Peace.
2, 3, 4.
walk, the cabs don't stop. On the street where I live, they called the cops. Found a noose in my garage, now how about that? So tonight I'm in the bushes with a baseball bat. Cause I'm a one man, I'm a one man, I'm a one man revolution. I'm a one man, I'm a one man, I'm a one man revolution. The time is now.